Hello to all our friends out there in the financial advisor group world. We just wanted to send you a little update. More importantly, this time on the firm and our newest addition, Ben Burkhart, to the team, but also add in a couple little thoughts on the market towards the end here. But most important today, we want to introduce you to Ben. Before we get there, it's hard not to comment on the weather we've had with a very mild, although I'll appreciate it, winter that we've had up here in PA. And more on that later, how we can connect that to the markets and what we're seeing right now. But on to Ben, right? Last video we sent out, we did mention that with Diana's retirement, we also have a new planner joining the team. His name is Ben Burkhart, and it has become tradition here. We'll have him tell you a little bit about himself with a video clip that's about to follow. So just as Julie has done and Jake has done, here's a little bit of info on Ben to tell you about who he is, a little bit about him and his background. And I'm sure Ben does, as we look forward to getting the opportunity to meet him and are very happy to have Ben on our team. Without further ado, here's Ben.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Burkhart, and I'm thrilled to be a part of the Financial Advisory Group. I just want to take a few minutes to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about who I am. So I was born and raised not too far away in Lebanon County, and practically grew up on the Lebanon Valley Golf Course. In fact, I used to help my grandfather maintain it, or so I thought as a kid. I just loved riding on the tractors and mowers with him. But anyway, I played golf as well, but it's been on the back burner, as you could say. Just trying to knock off some rust when it warms up later this year. Another one of my passions is cars. My dad and I spent a lot of time together restoring his 1967 Chevelle, which is still a project. It's not totally complete yet. But that got me hooked on cars and racing, going to car shows. But these days I have a car of my own. I have a Camaro that I race through the Sports Car Club of America. And one thing I've learned over the years is sometimes it's cheaper to buy a new car that has a warranty rather than racing something older that's more prone to break. One time I actually broke the suspension on the rear of my Camaro, and the dealership offered to replace it free of charge, and it was close to $3,000. So anyway, in terms of educational background, after high school, I started out at Penn State Harrisburg for 2 years, before then transferring to Temple University to pursue a degree in financial planning. This degree allowed me to test for the Certified Financial Planner, or CFP, designation, which Brad, Damien, Mary all have in our office. Jake is working on his as well. But after graduating in 2020, I spent 2.5 years at a Philadelphia-based firm where I primarily focused on investment due diligence and operations. During that time there, I passed the CFP exam and was one of the youngest people to ever receive the designation at 22 years old. Then I made the jump to the Financial Advisory Group to further focus on financial planning and building lifelong connections with clients. I'm passionate about helping people achieve their financial goals, and I'm excited to be working with such a talented group of professionals. Outside of work, though, I spend most of my days with my fiance Abby and our cat George in Windsor Township. And fun fact, Abby and I just got engaged a few months back in Puerto Rico. And if you have not been there, you have to check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful place with rich history. And you don't even need your passport, so no excuses on not visiting. In my free time, I also love the outdoors, hiking and camping. And I recently picked up running, and I'm hoping to run the Philadelphia Broad Street Run in April. Damien has luckily been giving me a lot of tips that have helped out. So, believe it or not, I'm also a trombone player, and I currently play in the Red Lion Felton Band as well as the Spring Garden Band. My goal is eventually to audition for the York Symphony Orchestra once there is an opening. And last but not least, I am a huge Philly sports fan. I mostly root for the Eagles and the Phillies, and it was really tough seeing both teams lose their championship game, the World Series and the Super Bowl. But very optimistic about next year. I think we have it. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. I'm excited to get to know you all and work with you to achieve your financial goals. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ben. And like we said before, we're very happy to have Ben as part of the team. This year, actually, 2023, marks our 20th year in this building on Winterbrook Drive, and known as the Financial Advisory Group. So first, we want to say thank you to everyone who stuck with us for this last 20 years or beyond. And I think as we look backwards and reflect on the likes of Terry and Sharon and our most recent retiree, Diana, we're so thankful to where they've got us to here today as a firm. But at the same point, when we look forward, I think when we look forward this next 10, 20, 30 plus years, we feel very confident in where we are as a firm with the team we've built here at the organization, which of course includes myself, Brad, on the planner side with Mary, Jake, and Ben, Julie, and Kathy as well. So we look forward to not only as a thank you first for the last 20 years, but look forward to the next 20 or 30 to come as well. We promised a little bit of update on the markets, don't want to dive too deep. But in general, last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about a healing process that we thought really what you started seeing back in sort of mid 2022, let's call it, if you paid close enough attention, is that you could see that the markets were starting to heal a little bit. You could see that inflation was starting to cool off. And just a couple of these charts here just show basically that same story. That if we look back to something we were very worried about a year or two ago was the price to ship something from Shanghai to Los Angeles. Have any of us even thought about that for the last year? The price has come back down to where it was pre-COVID. So things are a lot of this stuff that was a big issue for the last 2-3 years that caused a lot of this inflation is starting to fade, which is a comforting thing. Also, when you look at this chart down below, it's a little busy, but the blue line shows how many companies plan on raising prices in the next 3 to 6 months. But what you see, it's still elevated, but coming down, right? This healing process has begun. Just like after surgery, things start getting better. And that's the process we're seeing now, that we're seeing that process continue, that the healing is continuing. The orange line, on the other hand, shows how many small businesses believe that they're worried about consumer spending going forward, that they see a hit to demand. Well, as you can see, there's not many small businesses worried, which leads us into the consumers doing pretty darn well. So the healing's continuing. The market's actually had a great rebound since about the end of September 2022. But remember what we talked about the healing process. It's not a straight line. You know, that first month or two in recovery, you can make a lot of progress and then things slow down. So we've made a lot of progress this last 4 months in the markets. It wouldn't surprise us if we started hitting a couple bumps here along the way. Again, another hint on inflation. You ask companies, what's the biggest problem facing them today? Just another sign that yes, we're still worried about inflation, but coming off as the peak of the worry, we would say. What's holding this whole thing together now, right? Us, the consumer, right? The consumer continues to spend. I think that's what's confusing the Federal Reserve today. When you talk all the time about what's the Federal Reserve going to do, the consumer continues to be very strong. But in our view, that makes sense. If you have a job today, you're probably making more money than you ever have before. And yes, the price of some things have gone up, although it's starting to come down. But also, I think what's missed in this is from a debt perspective, consumers are actually in pretty good shape as well. If we look at things like delinquent status, the amount of loans that are out in delinquent status are actually down to almost an all-time low. Definitely the lowest we've seen in the last 2 years. Part of this helped by rates were so low that so many of us locked in low mortgage rates, and those rates help us spend more and save more and spend on other things. Hence, this strong consumer. So the consumer seems to be doing pretty darn well, and that's what's most important to this economy. But what about eggs, Damien? You know, inflation, every time we brought that up the last 6 months, eggs. Well, there's a reason the media hasn't talked about eggs this last couple of weeks, and I think this is a great learning point. Did you know that wholesale egg prices are down 50% in the last month or two? There's a reason the news isn't talking about it anymore. So as you really look close enough, you're starting to see a lot of these things wane that were a big issue in 2022. So that's what gives us this thought process of things healing. And again, we think that process is continuing, but we're probably about to hit a little bit of a rock and a couple bumps along that path, which is okay. And the last comment on healing, and as that healing continues, a year later, you're going to be very happy with the progress you made, but there will be some bumps along the way. So we referenced the warm weather earlier. I'm sure we all saw that this was the third warmest winter, or third warmest January in the Susquehanna Valley area in 2023. The thing we'd ask is, if you have a warm winter, does that mean you automatically have a warm spring? I think we all know the answer to that is it's impossible to predict what's coming next. Why do we tie this to the market? Well, I think the market's had a warm winter. We've had a great couple of months, and it doesn't necessarily mean the next couple of months are going to be great as well. So instead of getting all caught up in what's March going to be like, is it going to be snowy in March? Are we going to have bad weather in March and April because we've had such a good warm winter so far? Let's not worry about that. Let's enjoy the day today. When you have the nice weather, take advantage of it. When the markets rally, take advantage of it. So here, we've been able to sell off some things, create some cash for those that need it, replenish some buckets. So in general, just take advantage of that good weather. Speaking of that, I read a study the other day talking about actually one of the best things we can do is go for a walk. So our task to you is not worry about the Federal Reserve, not worry about are they going to hike, are they not going to hike, is inflation, are egg prices coming down? Go for a walk, disconnect. What this chart here shows is a really interesting study that if you're sitting at a desk or sitting idle, how active your brain is here on the left, where here on the right is someone after just a 20-minute walk. So your task, go out and take a walk, go out and enjoy nature, disconnect a little bit and let that mind wander. And during that wandering, that creativity can really be inspired, as this chart shows. So much of our time today, we tend to sit idle. If we can get outside and enjoy this weather, we think it will do best for all of us. I think also when we tie that back to the markets, the point we'd make is we've had great weather this last couple months. Don't worry about what's coming next. Just enjoy that great weather when it's here and take advantage of it. So healing process continuing, may get a little tougher from this part forward. Also, just enjoy this nice weather. Don't ask too many questions and enjoy it. Thank you again to all the trust and faith you've placed in us the last 20 years. Welcome to Ben to the team. We can't wait for you to meet him, and we look forward to the next 20 plus years together. Thank you, and make sure you go out and get that walk in today.